So hi all, welcome to the new session. Today's session will be on database testing or the need of database testing. Okay, this is a demo session as part of a combined session of agile testing as well as database testing. Okay, so as usual, before we start, I just wanted to see how the audience are, what are the audience all about. Okay, the expertise they are having in, the knowledge they are having about database testing. So there are 5 questions. Please answer these questions. Okay. The first question is, you got 30 seconds to answer this. Okay, last 2 seconds. I see only 71% noted. All right. So if you see 76% know an idea, only 8% are working or testing using the database. Fair enough. Huda, this is part of JPact. Okay. So the second question is, which all databases you are all aware of? You got 30 seconds to answer. Okay. Another 10 seconds to complete. See, unless and until you vote, I'll not have a fair idea about what exactly is the target audience about. I see only 71% voted. 30. Okay. All right. I'm closing the poll. So I see many of you are aware of SQL Server and Oracle, either 10G or 11G or the 12C latest one. Sybase, few are aware, and 30% are on DBT. Okay, cool. All are facing the same issue about the voice. I see only Neeta. Okay. The third poll is, okay, this is the third poll. You have 30 seconds to answer. Five more seconds. I see only 60% voted. All right. Done? Okay. I'm closing this poll. And the results are 61% voted that it is false, and 26% can happen, 13% true. Okay. The answer is false, but it can happen, but I'll tell you why will it happen. But it will not, in 99% it will not happen without a database. Okay. The last question, you got 30 seconds to post for the poll. Okay, another 10 seconds before we close this last poll. All right, that's it. Thank you for. So I see 84% as SQL, 52% as MySQL, and 10% as NoSQL. Okay, for you all these are DB query languages. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks for taking this poll. So this gives a fair idea about what my audience is all about. All right. So from where did it all start? What's the need of database? Okay. Say I have a website. Okay. The purpose of the website is to just provide information. So it all can be done using any of the coding language with plain text embedded, right? Does it make sense to you all, the wording? So you can use any of the coding language and embed any plain text in it and just can show in the website. Okay. So say suppose you got uh, uh, Wikipedia. Okay. Wikipedia will just give you an information. Okay. It is just a one-way communication, right? So Wikipedia is a classic example where the particular website is just giving you an information. It is not taking any inputs. All right. How many of you agree with this? How many disagree? Agree, I see only one. How many of you disagree? Yes, Anita. Yeah, Anita. You had a question? Okay, coming back. So if it's a yes. So the answer is if it's a static page, it's just a one-way communication. Okay. And it's like a simple way of letting you know how a website works is you have the folders, right? I got folders here. Okay. Now if you go and search, okay, say suppose Agile. Sorry. If you go and search, sorry, this search is not working. Okay. So just like when you go and search, right, you will have, if you just give a name, it goes and search for the respective folder. The same happens even in the same happens even in the case of website. So 1 second. So I have a server which hosts my files. So I have a plain text file, just like my Word or a Notepad document, where I'll keep the entire information. So in Wikipedia, how do you search? Say suppose you are searching for tourist places in USA. So it will all search the entire folders and it will give you results, just like in Google. Now all the documents will be shown. In that document, if you find any keyword which is of your use, you'll click on it. So that particular file will be open, right? So here, if you see, these are all a one-way communication with just a folder-based search option, right? But in real time, or there are other websites where we have two-way communication. Like a simple way of telling is, let's take Gmail itself. Okay, so if you have to start with Gmail, you need to have login credentials and then respective user details, which are nothing but emails, attachments, etc. Right? So storing them in the form of folders will not help. Okay, this your emails and attachments in the form of folder, that will help, but the login credentials, you cannot use a Word document or a single Word document for every user where the login credentials are present. It's actually, you can do that way also, but it's not advisable. So the solution for that is having a database where you where the details are stored in logical way. Okay, that's a simple way of telling the purpose of having a database. All right. So just to summarize up, earlier or even now also, you can have a file-based data retrieval systems, but that doesn't give you a logical way, or it doesn't help you in uh, retrieving the data faster, because there will be a lot of information, and in order to confine it to the particular user, it is not that easy to manage, right? So the alternate solution for this, having a database. Now, if you talk about database, what all goes into it, right? The information exchanged between the server and the client. So we all understand the concept of server and client, right? So I'm hosting information on a server and retrieving it using a client. Okay. Now here the client for us is Chrome browser for the web application. The same for databases, SQL plus SQL Developer Toad are the clients to fetch data from database. So far so good. Any questions? Okay. Huda is asking, so when the question is, when people are able to edit some info, where is the info going to be saved? Is it in interacting with the server? Okay, so that's the answer. That's one of the I mean, that's the answer. That's a question which is posed because of file management system. So the solution is database. Okay. Yeah. So in case of wiki, right? If Wikipedia, if you change anything, the respective file will be updated. Okay. That's how they are maintaining. But because Wikipedia is free for use, right? So it works on crowdfunding. All right. So anyone can go and change the files, the information that is present in Wikipedia. So that's why they are using only file management system. If they use database, then it will become they will have to maintain the entire information in a organized format, which we can also what to say, enable using a database, but the amount that is required will be huge. Okay. All right. So coming back. So now if you see any of the interactions or the data that is stored, that needs to be stored for future purpose, has to go in, has to be done in logical way. That's where database design slash architecture is most important. Okay. So let's do an example, simple example. So I got a small requirement. Okay. The requirement is I have an e-commerce site where I have to have the user credentials stored. Okay. So let me write this way. Requirement is user login credentials should be stored, and also whenever the user logs into the website, the MAC information is the IP from which he has come he or she has logged into the website, and the duration user has logged in. Also, if a password reset has been raised, when and where the new link has to be stored. This is my simple requirement. Okay. So I mean, if you are asked to design the same, how will you store all these details? I mean, don't worry about the database, but if you are asked to save all these details, how will you save it? So let's do it in a simple Excel sheet. Okay. So you give me the inputs, I'll try to put it up here in the Excel sheet. Let's take login credentials. So for login credentials, what are all required? Okay. Username, password. Okay. Then that's it. And the IP number. Okay. IP number of the system. I'm just writing whatever you're saying, but let's discuss about the need of it later. Okay. IP. Okay. Email ID. Okay. Now for okay, that's it about login credentials. How about the logs into the website? Second point is whenever the user logs into the website, the duration he has logged into, that information should go. Okay. So I should continue here or should I enter it as a separate sheet? Separate sheet. Okay. Okay. So what should I have it here? Directly the logged in time, start time and end time. That's it. No, you should have user ID as well, right? Which user has logged in, right? So user ID and the IP address. Okay. Apart from anything else? Okay. So many are asking why again you should write the user ID. Okay. So how do I know which user ID has logged in and what is its start time and end time? Where is that I am able to know? Okay. It can be linked as a child table to the parent ID. How will you do that linking? On what basis? Yeah. So you should have some reference to it, right? and the reference is done using user ID, right? So for others who are having a confusion, I know that many of you are getting confused. Now in user sheet 1, I have the login credentials, sheet 1. Now I want to see whether whenever a user logs in, what is the start time, end time, and the IP address from which he or she has logged into, right? So I'll just mention start time, end time, and IP address. But how will I know which user has logged in? So I should know his user ID, right? So that's the reason I'm giving user ID. All right. Now the next point is password reset has been raised. When and where? The new link has to be stored. So for this, what do you require? Same sheet or a different sheet? Separate. Okay. What are the columns I should have? User ID. Okay. Yes. No, no. You didn't get the question. My question is, if the user has raised for a reset password, when and where it was raised, and the new link that has been sent out, right? For that, I don't require old password or new password. The user hasn't yet generated the new password. So for this, I need email ID. Yes, correctly said. IP address, and then where, right? Where is IP address? And then I need the link. Correct. Reset link. Right. See, now what are you able to do here? You are able to analyze what is it all required to then for that requirement for the information to be stored. Now if you see what is the missing data here, when was it raised, right? So you need to date raised or the date when it was raised, right? So that's missing. Now tell me, is this a complete data? Are you able to relate each of these sections or each of these sheets? The data in sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, are you able to relate? Yes, you are able to relate using the user ID column, right? Now, from the standards perspective, we cannot use a vague names for sheet as sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, right? So what does it has to be? We should give a proper naming for it. So sheet 1, we will rename it as user underscore credentials. Okay. Sheet 2, this is about the login details, right? So rename it as user underscore log. Sheet 3 as user underscore pwd underscore reset, right? So that's how the naming conventions should also change. Now let's go for user credentials. So user ID should be, it's a, what is it? Is it a plain text? Is it a number? What is the format of username? Alphanumeric. Yeah, it's a mix, right? So it will be alphanumeric. So the character is alphanumeric. So this is its characteristic, right? Now, okay, basic question. Now, if you see here in this user credential sheet, I mentioned it as username, whereas in other table or in other sheets, I'm using it as user ID. So is it correct? Right. So what should you do? You should either rename it to user ID or the other sheets it should be renamed as username, right? So what's the better way? I'll change it to user ID. Okay. Sabita is asking, what do you mean by where password reset has been asked? I understand when, but what do you mean by where? So which system it has been raised? Say suppose Gmail is there, you have authenticated or you have authorized to use it on your own machine. It's not allowed for public environment. So in that case, you cannot request it from any other what do you say device, right? So you will be restricted to use only on your device. If someone else is requesting, then it's something wrong, right? Just to confirm that you should also mention where. So that's the user requirement based on the requirement. All right. Now coming back, password is, so what's the characteristic of password? It can also be alphanumeric, right? So alphanumeric. IP address, IP address is numeric, correct. But you have dots in middle, right? So you cannot say it as numeric. It is again alphanumeric. Okay. Email ID is also alphanumeric. Now, so if you see what are we doing here, we are trying to characterize the columns in the Excel sheet. Okay. So the same goes even in the database also. So whatever these columns in the sheet are called as columns in database, whereas sheet 1 is called as table in database. Now how are you characterizing the columns? The same way you will be doing in the database also. This characterization is called as characteristics definition is called as data type in database. So you got columns, table, all right. Okay. So this is it all about what you will be doing in database testing on a high level. So this is a simple example which will let you know what you will be doing in database testing. Okay. The other areas of testing we will have a clear detailed discussion when we do the action sessions. Okay. Now a few other areas that you need to be aware of. So for this sheet, what is the unique data? Which column will have unique data? User ID. Okay. User ID is unique. Password is unique. No. IP address is unique. Can be. Email. IP address. Okay. Many of you say IP address is unique. Why will it be unique? I'm using a public internet service. This thing. I mean, internet service provider, and I'm logged in. So the IP address for multi-user IDs will be the same, right? So it's not unique. Password is not unique. Okay. Email ID is unique. Okay. Now I contradict this statement. Can you let me know why? Email ID is not unique. True or false? Okay. False. All right. Hmm. Right. So many of you say it as false. Few of you are saying is it's unique. Or sorry, few of you say it's true. I go with the true, guys. Okay. The correct answer is true. The reason being, I can have multiple user IDs if the client is accepting for it. With a single user, email ID, I can have multiple user IDs unless and until the client allows. If the client, if the product or the application that is being used does not want to have different user IDs for the same email ID, then this particular value will be unique. All right, Lizzie, you are still not able to see the screen. Others are able to see. Others, you are not able to see screen. Um, Others are able to see screen. Lizzie, can you please cross check once again? All right. Okay, coming back. The design and development of database is done by DBA. As a DBA tester, do we also take part in DBA design and development, or our job is to test, which requires us to know the background info of how DB is designed? Please clarify. Yes, so Huda, the point is we know what is a black box testing and a white box testing. Hope we all know the difference, right? So black box testing is the functional way of seeing, which means in the front end where my user ID password column I'm entering, what will I check there? Whether the username is accepting alphanumeric characteristics or not, or it's accepting plain numeric characteristics or not, right? Say suppose in the front end UI definition using either Java or .NET, I mentioned it as it will consider only uh, varchar. It is not say suppose it will consider only letters. It is not what do you say? It's not considering any numbers. That's what I mentioned in the front end. Whereas in the database, I mentioned it as alphanumeric. Okay. So if I enter only letters in the front end, it will come and fall into database because database is accepting alphanumeric. Whereas in the database, we have said that it will only consider numbers. In the front end, we mentioned it as alphanumeric. Okay. Now when I'm trying to enter letters as well as numbers in the front end, it will not be stored in database because database is accepting only numbers. Okay. But it was in the earlier stage. Now what's happening is these letters will be converted into numbers and stored in the database. That's the provision we have now. Now when the next time the user after he logs in, after his user credentials are validated, the next time when he's trying to log in with his or her alphanumeric user ID, it will not be fetched from the database because in the database it's stored in the form of number. The data type has changed. The retrieval will not happen, right? So that's your functional or black box way of testing. Now the white box testing is, you know that the high to low level compatibility will not happen. So while designing the database itself, you will be knowing that in the front end it's alphanumeric, in the database it's numeric. So it will not, there's no compatibility, and obviously it will fail. So then and there itself you will tell that, hey UI designer or the front end designer, please go and change the data type in your front end code, right? So that's your white box testing. So database testing is a combination of both black box as well as white box. All right. So hope it answered your question. Yes. Okay. Asha is asking, can you please give an example of those clients who will accept same email ID for multiple user IDs? Hmm. Uh, you have many banking applications where your email ID can be same for multiple user IDs. Say suppose I have savings account with one bank and I have a credit card account with the same bank. For both these accounts, I have different login IDs, usernames, but the email ID will be the same. So here it's a classic example of a product where you can have multiple user IDs for the same email ID. Alright. Any other questions before we go ahead? Okay. So now the other areas which as part of database testing we will be taking care of is, so these uniqueness definition. Okay. So in this case, in this sheet, my requirement is for a given email ID, there should be only one user ID. So that definition should be defined prior to the database design. Okay. So if it is defined, this is unique, email ID is unique, and user ID is unique. So you will have to check unique columns, which we call it as unique keys in database. Okay. Now, so in a table you can have one or more unique keys. Okay. But to give a reference to any of the table, you cannot have multiple references to the same table, right? Everyone agrees with the same point? If you have to refer a data, you can do using unique key, okay, or unique column. But it is not advisable when it has more than one unique columns, right? So there's something which uniquely defines the unique key. So that's called as primary key. And for this table, what would you think is the primary key, or what is the primary column? What should be the primary column? User ID, right? For this table, you got user ID as the primary column. Now, in the case of user log, which will be your primary column? User ID will be your primary column. Okay. Now if I have to see a user, say suppose I have username NMR PSD10 here, password is XYZ, IP number 10.25.123.111, something is mentioned, NMR PSD10 at Gmail. I gave this information. Now if I want to see how many, if I have logged in or not, so where is the information stored? In this table, right? So I'll give the information for this. So 10/12/2016, 12:34 p.m. End time is 10/12/2016. End time is 02:22 p.m. User ID NMR PSD10. IP address is 10.240 or something. I just gave. Now, how am I relating whether this particular user ID is present or not? I'm just entering a vague value. Okay, so how do I know this particular user ID is present in the other table or not? Or to keep it question, how do I know whether this user ID is present or not? Whether he is having the access rights to access this website or not? How do I know? So it should match with the user ID present in user credentials. Agree? So this will act as a reference. This will act as a reference to the actual data, which we call it as foreign key. Okay. To summarize it up, a foreign key will act as a reference key to the primary key, and this should be present in the primary key column as a value. Okay, so you cannot give any value in the foreign key which is not present in the primary key. Clear? Confusion? Yes. So now tell me whether this foreign key can be null. Can it be null? No. How many of you? Many of you are saying no. In this case, this particular key is acting as both primary key for this table and foreign key for this table, right? So in this case, it cannot be null. But there are cases where foreign key can be null. Okay. An example is if you take, yeah. So in this example, as it is acting as a primary key, it cannot be null. But there are cases where it can be null. Say suppose I have mm, okay, I have expense details mentioned, not expense details. Just let me give. Okay, there can be tables where your foreign key can be null. Okay, I'm just trying to take an example. Okay, cloth store. Cloth store. I have the brand ID is defined. Okay, so I have brand ID and the name, and there's another table where it has sales details. Okay, which will have sale ID and the brand ID of which it is sold and the price. Say suppose. Now I can have cloths or items which are having some brand, and I can sell even the tailored items without any brand. So in this case, my brand ID will be null for the tailored items, right? So here brand ID is acting as a foreign key for this table and it can be null, right? So that's a simple example of telling it. All right. So if you see now, you might have got a fair idea of what exactly you are doing in the database testing as part of database testing. Okay. Nupur want an exam. Want to repeat. So I have brands definition in a table, brand ID, brand name. Say suppose B1, Levi's, P2, Benetton. Now when I do sales, I have sale ID something, brand can be nothing, 10,000, sale to B1, 10,000. Now if you see, I can sell items without which are not having any brand also. It's a possibility in that particular cloth store. Okay, so in this case, my brand ID is acting as foreign key in reference to the brand ID table. So here it is null, blank. Okay, so in this example, foreign key can be null. All right. Hope it answered your question, Nupur. You got the point. Okay. So coming back, so this is a high level gist of what exactly you will be doing in terms of database testing. So you need to analyze what is the characteristic of each column that is going into the database. How are they getting related with one another? What is the characteristic of it? Okay, so on and so forth. So when you take a bigger system, you will have a lot. You will have a lot of columns, many tables, and the relationship between them, the references, how it goes, what's the type of data that is being stored, so on and so forth. Is it okay? Asha is asking, is it because the sales table has sales ID as primary key? Yes, sales, yes, correct. Lizzie is asking, can a table have more than one foreign key? Yes, it can have. So in the coming sessions, after Agile testing is completed, we will continue with database testing. There we'll have a detailed discussion about all these areas, and I'll give an example, simple example. You can go and look into it. Now, the expectation from this training is, we'll let you know how to check the UI and DB. So with respect to UI, how does a DB should be designed and what are all the checks we need to do? The checks, the how to do that, I'll mention. SQL part, SQL queries. On a high level, we will discuss. I mean, if you have to fetch the data from multiple tables or for the basic retrieval questions or retrieval queries, how do you do that? That I will mention. But in detail, if you would want to know, we have SQL videos, please follow them. All right. I'll let you know how to create using a plain English. How do you write your query in English, and then convert it into SQL query. So English is a beautiful language which will help us in understanding how to write an SQL query. Okay. All right. So this is it about database testing. Open to questions. Okay. Before that, sorry. I'll also give a glimpse about what is a data warehouse, the purpose of it, and the advancements in database. So we got big data now. Okay. The need and how is it different to database, as well as SQL, NoSQL comparison. So SQL is for more for database and data warehouse, whereas NoSQL is the concept that has come into picture because of big data. Okay. Open to questions now. Okay. Question from Asha: is it necessary to have an idea about database coding and data testing? See, again, as Karthik and I have reiterated in the starting session, manual testing is not only functional testing. You got even database testing, data warehouse testing or ETL testing, web services testing. Okay, so these are all your areas in the manual testing. Okay, now if you would want to look in your, I mean, have a career in database testing, this particular session will give you an idea about what all goes into database testing. Okay. Okay, Khadija is asking SQL and NoSQL. Okay, so you got a server as SQL server or database server, and if you want to fetch or insert a data into this server, the query language that you use is SQL. For big data systems, you got MongoDB or Cassandra. So these are few big data databases. Okay. For this, in order to retrieve or insert data or delete data, the query language that is used is NoSQL. Okay, that's on a high level. So how is it different? How is NoSQL different from SQL? I'll just give you a brief glimpse, a brief idea, but that altogether will become a big session. So I just wanted to, it will help you in understanding what is the NoSQL and big data. Okay. Bhushan, I hope it answered your question as well. All right. Any other questions, team? Nanti, we are done with Jira. Okay. Huda is asking if we want to be able to manual testers, do we need to be experts in database testing, or do we need to need little bit of everything? Yes, as a manual tester, you should be able to have a little bit about everything. Knowledge about everything will be, I mean, the idea about everything will help you because we will not be the same testers for 10 years or 20 or 15 years, right? We'll have to grow. Okay, Nupur is asking, can foreign can key be duplicate? Yes, we can have a duplicate value. Okay, no, okay. Savita is asking, when you say duplicate, you mean it will reference different tables, right? No, no, no. Duplicate means, say suppose in the case of brand ID example, I can sell I can sell multiple items of same brand, right? So here my foreign key is having duplicate values. All right. Okay. Sumita is asking, as a manual tester, what point I need to know do the database testing? See in the front end, say suppose you are validating the login page itself of any auth. Okay. So before login page, I'll need to register, right? So when I try to register, the information whatever I'm giving, username, password, and the email ID should be stored somewhere, right? The next time I log into the machine using login page, these details should be stored somewhere. So that part of testing is data testing from the UI perspective. Okay. Whereas database testing is whatever are the values that are that you are giving in the front end, whether it's going into the correct table, correct column or not, that is database test. I hope now you got the difference between what a manual testing from the functional perspective is doing and what is it happening. Okay. Okay. Repeating it for Parvin. In the front end, say suppose login page is there. Before login page, we need to register ourselves, right? So in order to register that, we will have username, password, and email ID provided. Now the next time when I try to when I go to the login page and give the username and password, it should allow me to log in. So that's your functional way or functional testing. Whereas or the data testing. Whereas whether the username is going to the correct table, correct column or not, whether the password is stored in the same the correct table and for the same user ID or not, that's your database testing. Okay. Okay. Will you cover joins? Hmm. Lizzie is asking this question. Lizzie, these videos are already present. the join, the SQL videos are already present. Okay, you need to go through them. Apart from that, on a high level, I'll just let you know how to do it. On a high level, we'll not go into the details. Okay. As an automation tester, do I need to know about database testing? If your automation is on the data that is being retrieved from the database, then you need to have an idea about database testing. Again, database testing is nothing but how do you store the data, what format, which table, which column, how are you able to retrieve the data. So in the front end, you will be referencing one or more tables. When more than one table is being used, how do you join the data between these two tables? How do you fetch? What are the columns you will be fetching? This is all about database testing. Okay. So if your automation requirement is on the data that is fetched from database, then you need to know about database testing. Else, if it is a functional or the front end testing that you are automating, then you need not have an idea. I mean, you need not be worried about database testing. Okay. So what about TSQL? TSQL is more for Sybase. Okay. It's an extension to SQL query. I mean SQL. Database testing is always manual. No, these days we are doing automation also on database testing. You can you can do it using UFT. You got many automation inbuilt automation tools for database testing, like ETL database validator, ETL validator. So these are all inbuilt or what do you say, plug and play automation tools that are already present in the market. Yes, UFT Selenium can also do database testing. Yeah, so Khadija is asking, do we have more classes for database? Yes, we do have uh, two more sessions, three more sessions, one for Agile and two for database testing. If needed, we will extend. As I said, as Karthik and I said, we all want some basic understanding for all of you guys. Okay. All right. Any other questions, team? Okay. I don't see any other questions. So this is it for today. We'll join back on Monday again for Agile. And based on the progress, we will extend for a day or two. And then after that, we'll continue on database testing. How much requirement for database tester? To just give a glimpse, the database will be there for any of the web application development. Okay. So now what happened is, when you are a manual tester or functional tester, the expectation is you need to have an understanding about database testing as well. So functional tester with database tester is of good demand. A functional tester with database as well as ETL testing has a good demand in the market. These days, just to give a glimpse, data warehouse is very much needed for any of the bigger clients, because with the amount of data flowing into the system, it's in huge. The volumes is very huge. So maintaining one single database is not advisable, or having the entire history stored in the database, and whenever you have to retrieve some data, you have to search all the data that is present. So which means it is taking some time indirectly. So instead, if you hold the history data in a different system and use only the current year system, ideally you need to fetch the data for last 1 year. That's the maximum amount of data you see. If you take even in your bank accounts also, you will see the mini statement for 1 month or maximum 3 weeks, or see 3 months. You will not go and see the entire 4 years or 5 years data, right? So having this data stored in somewhere, the last 4 years data, and only this current year's data stored in the database is an advisable option. Okay. So obviously data warehouse is needed. Database is also needed. So for any UI or web application, or even in the mobile application also, database testing will be. Nopur is asking, is database in conjunction with Selenium for JPact? I mean, we will learn to write query in Selenium? No, that Karthik will answer. You can pose this question to Karthik. Okay, Asha is asking, is it just to have an idea of how the data stores in database and be able to retrieve it? Or is it something more than that, so that we can go through the SQL videos? See, this training as part of JPact will give you a fair idea how the data is stored, how will it be retrieved, how will it be modified. Okay, the SQL videos will help you in how to write the SQL queries. Okay, this training will let you know how it goes, and what all are the areas that you need to test as part of database. Okay, any testing tools for database testing like HPQC or Jira? No. The answer is no. All right. Any other questions? Can a single table have two primary keys? No, we don't call it as primary key. It is unique key. One will be primary, the other one will be unique. All right. Okay. Can we use QC or Jira for test case writing for database testing? Yes, Sumita. Yes. These are the test management tools. So whatever is the type of testing, whatever is the test case you are writing, you can use ALM, QC or Jira for that. All right, guys. That's it for today. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you back on Monday. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend. Happy New Year to all of you again.